My name is Beth Jones, and I am a healing mentor. That's my title.
Can you tell me a little bit about your own mental health journey?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I don't actually think about it as a mental health journey, but that is probably what many people would categorize it as. I had an experience about 4 years ago that sent me into a very dark place. So I had some history, some things that have happened to me in the past that I needed to heal from. And I was carrying a lot of emotion, not great emotion, associated with those events, and was living my life in not some great ways at the time. And it just came time for me to heal. And I had a life altering event that put me on a healing pathway where I spent about a year dealing with a lot of the negative emotions that I carried as a being. So um, it was a mental health challenge that I was dealing with at the time for sure, but it was really about coming to understand my emotions and get rid of some of those that were constraining me and holding me back from being the person who I truly am. So I've done the work, I've done the healing work, and through that process, gathered a lot of tools with me, a lot of things that I use even now when my emotions go to a place that aren't great. I can use those tools now, although I'm much quicker to respond and get past whatever I'm dealing with on a much more quickly than I did in the past.
What are some of the tools?
So I'm a huge advocate and believer in therapy, all types of therapy modalities. So, when I began my healing journey, it started with hypnotherapy, which was about digging into my subconscious and unlocking some things in my subconscious mind that needed to come to the surface so that I could deal with them. It had to do with some trauma and abuse that I've survived in my past from when I was quite young. Um, so that and I mean hypnotherapy was just my way of getting to it. I think there are a lot of different ways that people can get to those types of things that are locked away in their subconscious mind. That was my opportunity to do it. I've used things like somatic movement therapy, which is connecting the body to emotion, and connecting the mind to emotion that's in the body, and through movement being able to get out some of those emotions that constrain us and hold us back from really having enjoyable and lives in which we thrive. And of course, trauma therapy. So I went through a long history with various types of counselor led therapy. Quite a lot of it I refer to as couch therapy, which some people don't like it when I say that, but that's what it was for me. So I probably spent I don't know, 15 or 20 years with therapists who weren't really getting at the core of what my challenges were and helping me to progress past what I needed to get past. And I think a lot of that had to do with who they were and the skills that they had, which I don't believe that those therapists were skilled in trauma and not skilled in the particular types of trauma that I've experienced. And so it wasn't until I found a therapist who really understood me and understood the way that I was presenting to her. So the things that I was, so I'll give you an example. So for years, I would sit on a therapist's couch and I would just sob uncontrollably the entire time that I was in the therapy room. And the therapist, and many therapists who never went, oh, well, that's kind of strange. Maybe we should dig into that and try to figure out why it is that you cry the entire time you're in my office every time you're sitting here. I never had one that asked me that question. Um, but then I found my trauma therapist, and she very quickly understood that I was presenting with quote unquote symptoms that we weren't normal for most people. And she helped me to excavate what was happening. And at the same time, I'd also been through the hypnotherapy event, which had unlocked my subconscious mind and brought to the forefront some of the things that I knew I had experienced. So I was able to share that with her finally, which I hadn't been able to do that in the past. So, I feel like, and then I tell people when I work with them now that therapy is an evolution unto itself when you're getting therapy and making sure that you're getting to a provider who can actually help you, but you have to engage in that process. So it's like walking to any doctor's office and sitting down in front of the doctor and just expecting them to figure out what's wrong with you. You have to help them, right? So you have to talk to them. You have to tell them what symptoms you're experiencing. They take blood, whatever they do to run tests on you. It's kind of that same concept. And so that's probably been the most powerful tool that I've used has been therapy. But I really, um, I'm a huge advocate for people taking control of that as if they were dealing with any other kind of a medical provider to make sure that they're getting the full benefit out of therapy. Art therapy is another one that I use. So I'm an artist and I love to paint, and it's any artistic expression is how we get emotion out. Whether it's painting or a write, it depends on what you do, but also therapy modalities. So there are a lot of them that I use together, to help me.
And you also have a book coming out soon. What was that process like?
I do. That's sort of my writing journey has led me to having a book come out. It's my it's part of my the book itself is part of my story and the progression that I've been on to move into the part of my life where I'm going to live my actual life's purpose, and that is to be a healing mentor and to inspire other survivors of trauma and abuse to walk their healing pathway, to do work in their own way, in their own unique way, but to find their way to healing as I've done. And writing was part of my healing path. So I think a lot of us who deal with mental health challenges or emotional distress from time to time, one of the things that we do is we journal, and a lot of providers and people who we work with tell us to journal. Right, it's a great way to get your emotions written down. And I've done a lot of that. I did a lot of it as I was going through my healing journey. I still do a lot of it. It's interesting. One of the things that I struggle with most of that is that I feel like I journal only when I need to get like the negative stuff out of my head, right? But I'm always like I had this journal one time that I started that was my happy journal, and my intention was only to write in it when I had like good things and happy things that I wanted to put out, and get out of my head. But I found that didn't work too well because it's not balanced, right? And I think the reality for many of us is that we are dealing with some of those more difficult emotions, right? So keeping some balance here, I think, is a better way to do it. But journaling is a great way. And as I was going through my healing process and doing a lot of the writing, and I would look back over it, I started to realize the power of my own story and what I've been through, and then really what I have done, the work that I've done to get through a healing process, a very difficult and challenging healing process, which was a lot of hard work. But it's a powerful story because I've come out on the other side where now today I feel like I'm probably in the best time of my life. Still healing and always will be. I believe that. But I could see that in my own story. And as I started talking to people about my story and what I was going through, the idea of, oh, you need to put the story out into the world was circling around me. And I have people in my path who I've known for many, many years, going back to college, who are master storytellers, and they help people write books. And it all just sort of coalesced together where a stop on my journey and my path and what I was supposed to do was to write this book. And so I wrote it. And yeah, it captures my experiences and my journey that I've been through, but all of it is meant to share my story to inspire other survivors to walk their healing pathway.
How does helping others help your own healing process?
For me, it's about making good from the bad that I've been through. I've, I am a victim of various trauma and abuse, and I was a survivor for 45 years. As I mentioned, I mean, some of the things that I did to survive weren't great. Some of the ways that I lived my life weren't great. And actually, by the end, by the time it came my time to really do my healing work, I was alone and very lonely. Um, but yet I was in a people around me wouldn't have said that or wouldn't have known that. Although I think most people who knew me back then before I started my healing journey and who know me now in particular, where they can do the comparison, can see that there was something not quite right with me in terms of my ability to be able to connect with people. And so I suffered from what I've been through, and some pretty awful things have happened to me in my lifetime. Um, but now I get to make good from that, and I understand that the plan for my life was for me to have been a victim, to survive my life, but then to be given this beautiful healing journey that I went on so that I can share that with other survivors and sort of pay it forward. And so that's the positive, the good that comes from what I've been through in my lifetime. And that's beautiful. There's a lot of power in that, and I'm grateful for that. And I wouldn't change one thing about my life because I get to do that good now, which is wonderful.
And with the people you talk to, do you see their confidence level rise as they hear their story and work through their own traumas?
I do. I think there's a natural element of encouragement, encourage that I impart to people when I talk to them because I'm very open and transparent about my own story. I mean, the conversations that I'll have with people are as deep as they want to take them and very authentic. And I can go super deep and super open the first time that I've ever met you. And being able to do that and not withhold and not, I think it's also because I don't withhold out of some sort of anything that might look to them like they're not worthy to hear my story and they're not worthy to share in and hear what I've been through. Every single person is. And I genuinely believe that. And it just naturally comes from me. And with that, there is encouragement and courage, inspiration to do the same thing, right? I mean, and it's different for everybody how they go through the process of going down their healing pathway, and people may obviously progress at different rates. Some don't progress. But I feel like there is that encouragement and courage that I try to impart in people to do it.
You talked about art therapy a little bit, but what else do you do to help your own mental health?
The main thing, so movement for me is really huge. So, and what I've noticed over time is when I got into trauma therapy, real trauma therapy with the woman I work with now, um, I engage with the EMDR, which I don't know if you know what that
Yeah.
is, but it's, yeah. So, and probably a lot of people who listen to your show who do know what EMDR and have had experiences with that. I actually when I mentioned the couch therapy, I actually tried EMDR twice with previous providers, and I couldn't connect with it. And I think that had to do with their skill and then the rapport that I had with them, right? And where I was, it wasn't my time to heal back then. I know that too, and so it didn't work for me. But with Monica, my therapist now, it works beautifully. And when I first started working with her, we were working in person, and then just for circumstances that occurred, she ended up moving from where I was living, and we had to do EMDR remotely. And I've actually been working with her remotely, probably, I don't know, I mean, because we only worked together in person for like 3 months. And then, like, I've been working with her for over 4 years now. So the vast majority of it we've been doing sort of remotely. So I could engage with that rhythmic aspect of EMDR remotely. And what I started to notice is so I love being outside. Nature soothes my soul, and I like to move outside. So um, running or walking or hiking or whatever it is, that's really what I enjoy for my physical activity. But there's a lot of processing for me in my head that goes on, whether I'm like working out some sort of a problem or I'm processing some sort of emotion, which I mean, I've done all of it, right? So my mind just works. And what I find is that quite often, I can put myself when I'm moving into that rhythmic state that mimics the finger movement or the pen movement of EMDR. And my mind will just start to really process whatever it is that I need to work through. Like I say, and sometimes it's about solving a problem. Sometimes it's about an emotional issue I'm dealing with. Sometimes I'm creating content because I write and I like to write, and there's more of that coming. And I'm artistic, so there's a creative element of mine that will unlock. Writing speeches, that kind of thing will happen when I am in that rhythmic state of processing. So that's probably one of my primary um, self-delivered mechanisms of of therapy is in movement and just really allowing whatever comes to me. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens when I'm in that state, that's what I will allow to happen. And sometimes it's funny. Sometimes I have the intention like, oh, I'm going to listen to this audiobook, right? And I'm out, and I'll go for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then I'll realize that um, I'll realize that I haven't heard the book at all because I've been processing, right? So my mind will do what my mind's going to do when I'm in that state, and a lot of that is because I'm open to it and I just allow it to do what it's going to do. But that's huge for me. Movement and getting that rhythmic process going to get my mind to engage is really a key modality for me. Yeah.
Where do you want to see your mental health mission, per se, in the next 3 to 5 years?
That's an interesting question. When you ask me that question, I think about the intention of what I'm doing right now. I've been led down a path that has in the last couple of months moved me from a very long corporate career to one in professional services to where I don't work in that environment anymore. I don't ever see myself going back to that environment. And my mission really is to find other survivors of trauma and abuse and to let them hear what I have to say about the power of doing the work to heal. And then helping them if they need help healing. I would love to do that, right? I've been down the pathway and I know what it takes, and I would love to help them with that. If that's one person, that's enough. And if it's many more than that, that's fantastic. So what I really want is I want my message. I want people to hear what I have to say, and that it follows what I live by. Right, you too can heal from trauma and abuse. I've done it, and if I've done it, I know it's possible for everybody else in their own way. But I know it's possible for everyone else, and that's really what I hope comes out of this and what I can impart to people in the future. And so in 3 to 5 years, I don't know how many people have heard the words or read my words, how many ever it's supposed to be. That's what I hope for. That I reach the people who need to hear my message. And you're
How can
helping me.
people? Yes.
This is the way that I do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I saw some of your social media videos and all that.
Yeah.
And, I use video as a medium to get people's voices out there. What
Yeah.
is it about that medium you think can reach more people?
Yeah, well, I mean, social media is an interesting thing, which you might experience this too, right? And I'm trying to figure out exactly how you use it because I used it one way professionally in my past life.
Yeah.
And then there's the personal aspect of it that, sort of we engage in or we don't engage in. I'm trying to find what the balance of that is now. And in this environment where there seems to be a shift away from people wanting to engage with social media and they want more of this, right? They want more
Yeah.
of people talking and having, they want to hear people saying what they have to say, right? And so I'm trying to find my way through that now. I do, I mean, I don't mind putting the social media content out there, and I don't mind, doing my videos and putting my words out there. They're powerful words, and I know they are. I try to be engaging. I'm not sure how engaging I am on some of those videos sometimes, but try to be. But, I think part of the challenge that I struggle with is part of what I'm dealing with inherently is a difficult subject, right? I talk about healing and that's what I focus on because I think that's the important part of my story, and the important part for all of us is to heal. But there is the negative side of that, right? I needed to heal because I am a trauma and abuse survivor. And so it's a kind of striking a balance there, to pay homage to the seriousness of that, but to really bring the joy and the light to what the outcome can be if you do the work to heal, right? So I find that's part of what I'm trying to balance in the social media, right? And what do I put out there in terms of the videos? And I think, what you're referring to right now is if you follow me on social media, I'm reading passages from my book that's coming out soon. And, the process of choosing the passages that I was going to read was very deliberate. And when I first went through that process, they were sort of some of the more difficult things that I say in the book. And I was like, oh, I got to get some balance on that and get some of the happy stuff out here, right? And some of the good stuff. And so I'm trying to balance that out because, kind of it's a fine line I'm walking there, right? To strike a chord with the people who need to hear the right thing, right? And I do believe that what I'm saying and the message I'm putting out into the world is divinely led, and whoever needs to hear what I'm saying is going to hear what I'm saying. So I try not to worry too much about the ultimate outcome of what I'm putting out there, but trying to get some balance on that, the positive on top of the reality of what I'm talking about, and trying to do that. And plus, like I say, the whole social media thing is a very interesting animal to me now, and I'm in this world with what I'm trying to do, as you can probably appreciate, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So how can people reach out to you and learn more?
Um, so my website is the best way to get to me right now. So there's a community that I'm creating on the backside of the book, which is the work that I will do in spreading the message, and it's a community called Empowered Survivors. And so the website is empowered survivors with an S, because there are many of us.com, and I'm on a mission to make more empowered survivors. That is part of my mission. But that's the website, empoweredsurvivors.com. If you go there today, you're going to get a landing page for the book, because I am actively promoting that, because it's coming out in a little over a month. But behind the scenes right now, the whole web page is being built out, and so the day after the book launches, you'll be able to connect with me in a lot of different ways. And in fact, if you go to the landing page now, you'll still get to me, because you can end up on a wait list where I'll see you out there and can connect with you while the book's launching. So that's the best way to get me. You can also search me on social media, Beth Jones and Empowered Survivors. You'll find me on my name's pretty easy, Beth Jones, one of the most generic names in the world. I kid myself about, but you can search me on both Facebook and LinkedIn. And I guess the other way to know that you found me is my pseudonym on social media right now is Scorpio Rising. And so if you see that, you'll know that you found me. So lots of ways to get me. And I would love for you to connect with me. So anybody, any of your listeners, any of your viewers that are out there, I would love for you to connect in with me. I have some very positive and uplifting messages to give you. So come find me.